literally just like your.
Am I in this, yours?
No.
Okay.
I got a couple of texts. I don't. Oh, I did get a call. Okay, I did.
I know you might want one.
Thank you.
I know he might want one. And I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell her. We all do respect. How are you, by the way? And I told the mayor this already. Committees,
Yep.
committee of two, ain't nothing. It ain't a committee. There's no such thing as a committee of two. You have to have 3 members. You have to have a majority. There's no majority in 2.
I think our committee comprises of 2 trustees and Ms. Satchel. She's a vote. I think they're all
I'll
like.
have to find that later.
It's not. I agree. Well, at least I don't remember, but I think that was our tone. Otherwise, you don't have
She's
a.
part of it. I know you're part of it, but.
I'm not technically part of it.
No. I mean, as far as like, just getting.
They give me a courtesy,
Right.
like if I call and say, hey, can I?
But you're right. Otherwise, you can't really get a consensus or some sort of vote. 'Cause there's no.
It's all advisory anyway.
Right.
It's an advisory committee, but
Yeah.
just so you know.
All right. Okay. Well, hopefully a little practice in that, right? I mean, as far as where she.
So we.
I'm not sure. I mean, but usually the conversation is really good about department heads and you also know the bulk of the budget anyway, salaries and stuff for the departments. But the only thing that we don't have a say on is what I tried to bring up here is just like the president and trustee section and then the special events section. Yes, that's just, I mean, that's things that at least, the,
And then we did this on.
hopefully we can.
Somebody was smoking in here?
So normally, trustee Ivory, led that, I'm not sure how that, so,
Not in here, but you
No,
smell
I probably smell like it worse.
From the doorway? Ain't smelling that. I never smelled you close up.
Smelled like something when I opened that door, because that door was closed.
Right,
I opened
yeah.
the council
Oh,
chambers.
it smelled like weed.
Yeah, it did.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
said.
yeah,
When I
yeah.
walked, I said when I walked in here, I did,
Yeah.
but yeah, when I walked in, I smelled it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you've been close to you enough that it couldn't be you.
I didn't know what it was. That's when my house smells smoke.
Spoken a while ago.
Yeah, I was like, I smell cigarette smoke.
but, that's what I would say, like, this is, I don't, we don't have a conversation, now, this is the special,
Yeah, this,
prepared to store.
it'll be your practice, I guess, and then at the US.
Oh, I printed it.
And forgot
I
to,
think that was some
oh,
sort
she thought you
of,
forgot.
some sort of official thing we need to do to,
Maybe they did.
so, I mean, this is the
Maybe these are the ones
conversation.
that I brought.
Can I give them to you when you write?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I printed them.
I just thought, this doesn't mean that people have been, like,
Yeah,
asking, I just
I see
want to
them.
be able to say they
Thank
can
you.
make it, that, because we've, the last few months, we haven't really stayed to our template, so I at least want to be able to say, hey, we're able to come to our meeting, because there's, okay, let's see, I'll give trustee Brandon another minute or so, and then,
These are for the board members.
yeah, they,
The staff are getting them too.
Oh, but what is it?
It's for stress awareness month.
okay.
And it doubles as a stress reliever and you got your cell phone there to hold your cell phone.
Does it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I
That's
got
clever. Ooh, nah, I think I like both reasons. might be one of those.
I know, the real one.
The real reason, huh? See, we doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's
in
cool.
operations.
Dual purpose.
I need an extra too. See, here you go. It's just like, you just say to people, when you put food out, they taking food home.
Right.
You got it?
I'm sure I got some. Oh, shit. I have to keep lotion for them ashy boys. They don't put it on.
My husband's hands are always ashy.
As soon as I turn, we almost at school. No lotion.
As many times as we started to wash our hands over the past couple of years,
Yeah.
it was impossible to keep your, it was just,
I never needed hand cream in my life.
Until now, right?
It's all that hand sanitizer,
Yeah.
it's just drying.
It's alcohol.
Crap.
Yeah. You got enough lotion?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Well, he got, he gives it.
Right, I mean, if we're gonna make any type of recommendations.
He called me some dear question.
Yeah. Well, I would say this, we'll have to hold off on any business items, but Ms. Satchel, if you wanna get started on I'm sure the budget is just, we can just kind of get started on it.
Okay.
And I think Trustee Brady can catch up, but just in the interest of time, I think we can get started.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 5:36 p.m. I'll do a roll call. So Trustee Brandon is not here yet. Trustee Jones here. Director Satchel.
Here.
And just for the record, we'll recognize Village Manager Wells Armstrong. Okay, great.
Present.
Yes, so, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance and we'll get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just so I'm going back to what I said. Yeah, of course, even with this.
Right.
It doesn't really matter, so you can find my proceeding.
Sure, okay. All right, yeah, just for the record, 5:38, Trustee Brandon arrived. So we're just getting started. As far as the minutes, now remind me, I'm trying to remember, at some point you started joining us.
This is the first meeting we're doing.
Are you?
Everybody
Okay.
from our office is joining, so.
Okay, so excuse me, this is probably my second meeting where the minutes weren't ready, but so excuse me on that. So we will table the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Which was back in January. It's hard to believe that we haven't met in a couple months, but there's been a lot going on, so we'll catch up. But we'll table that from now. I'm pretty sure if that's the case, I would have taken the minutes in my notes. I just didn't get them.
I've never seen any minutes from this committee since its inception, so if you had minutes from previous, then you should be getting them to our office.
Perfect. I'll do that. I definitely do. I have them in a folder. So, so what I'll do at our next meeting, we'll approve this meeting's minutes and then the previous meeting minutes. But I'm sure the conversation back then was really preparing for now. So I don't think we're making any decisions up to just preparing for now. So let's move on with 5, Finance Director report. Director Satchel.
So as far as the report, I don't have anything outside of the budget and just the preparation for that. There's some other, things that are going on that I haven't formalized in the document in terms of with the department. But for the most part, it's just the new business. It's just the discussion of the budget.
Okay.
And the financials will be, discussed this evening.
Okay.
February.
All right, cool. I mean, so we can just use this as, like you said, we'll run through the highlights of the budget when we get there, and I'm sorry. I don't think so.
No, I'm already was in the office when I.
He did have, well,
When
he
I
said,
left.
okay, I thought he was like, looking here or something.
He was still parked out there when I
Yeah.
left.
But it's not a big deal. We'll move on. Village Manager, you just have a standing report. Just if you have anything to say, we're always going to give you the floor. So if you have anything to say, feel free. It's just your moment if you do.
The only thing that I would like to host. I have a presentation this evening, talking about, recruitment, retention, and, attraction for employees, staffing. And, some communities in the ARPA funding are giving, their employees who have withstood 2.5 years of COVID, some type of retention bonus, or, oftentimes employers will offer an incentive to attract people and give them a sign-on bonus. I just wanted to present to this committee, consideration of a stipend or something for the employees that have worked with COVID for the last 2.5 years. It is an allowable expense under ARPA, and some other municipalities have done that just to show appreciation to the employees.
Well, you're right, that is one of those allowed items, so, yeah, so that's something that you're just making a proposal?
Yeah, I
to this
don't have a
committee that
dollar
you-
about, just,
Okay.
would like you and trustee Brandon to mull that over
Okay.
and, ask for consideration.
If I may, I don't know if you saw the governor sign in the law today, COVID pay going forward and retro for anybody that had to use their sick pay for COVID time off, including parents that had children at home that had COVID. And I believe it was for the school districts. I'm not sure if it's for the whole state or state employees. But anyway, it's something that is out there on the table statewide.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So I guess maybe coupled with that, we'll just kind of see what other some alternatives there are to that. But I do know, kind of going one of those like allowable things, it was that. And I thought it was a good idea too. There was a lot more at that time period. So, okay, great. Is that the
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to 7 with is committee chair report. I do not have a report. Everything I want to discuss is outlined in new business or old business. Trustee Brandon, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that isn't outlined in the agenda?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, great. Number 8, public comment. Did anyone receive public comment? Okay. All right, let's keep going. So 9, new business. So A, discussion on fiscal year 2022-2023 village budget. Yes, so I put as kind of a sidebar the president and trustees and special events recommendation, but I was just gonna kind of do that on the tail end. I guess if you want to, you can just walk us through the budget
Yeah.
in general, and we can go
So
from there.
I emailed it out to you guys, the budget and the presentation for this evening, and you do have it outlined, so we can start with that. So for my recommendation of the special events. So I guess this one speaks more directly to Trustee Brandon right now, because what we had that I didn't put in here was Say Summer. And I don't know where we are with that merging of that musical thing. So what I did was kind of reallocated the funding. It was always 20, and the time day stayed at 10. The gift cards for the turkey giveaway stayed at 5, but I increased the youth delegation DC trip from 4 to 5. I increased the youth fishing trip from 3 to 5, and the old timers picnic from 2,500 to 3,000. And that's in the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the PowerPoint is what's going to be presented for public hearing tonight. So I just reallocated that 20 grand for that. And the Police and Fire Commission, they asked for a little bit of an increase overall in their budget. Historic preservation was restored to 10, planning and zoning at 5, and then Maywood Fest at 25. So these are, just kind of putting back some of the things that we had before. Some of the commissions are not, in existence as they were, and before the pandemic, like the special events and that type of stuff. So that's the recommendation for that. And for the president's and trustee budget, I put it back to where it was, prior. So the main item is the training and seminars. So that, line item is now 36.5, which is, essentially like 5,000 per, and then, 1,500 for the staff. Again, it's not set in stone, it is $5,000 per person, but that's just kind of a starting point, right? Because if someone else doesn't use theirs, it's not designated to be $5,000 each.
Right.
But, that was the idea behind that. And then the community engagement, I think we termed it something different. But essentially now that's our buzzword, right? Engagement, community engagement. So that's on page 7 in document. I emailed it to them, so
Yep.
so that's on page 7, community engagement, and then miscellaneous is 7,000. So those are things, and also then the lease payments for the mayor's vehicle. Those are the increases, pretty much to the president's and trustees'
You got
budget.
an extra hard copy of that?
I do.
Lease payments for the,
For the truck.
I think I was under the impression that we were like expensing that entire balance
We did, but, when you do your end of the year, we're not paying for the whole thing. We just had to recognize the expense. And so when we do our end of the year closing entries,
Okay.
only thing that will be charged is the payments that we made. So I don't know, I don't understand. Oh, shoot.
We're talking about PowerPoint, this I
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, I didn't break it.
I'm just FYI, like if you're gonna do that maintenance in the system for monitoring, everybody's out there.
I can forward it to you
Yeah,
because,
because
I sent it to the
chances are
clerk's
somebody
office.
might ask for it, and we should keep it on record, because it's presented in an open meeting.
I'll send it now.
Yeah, I don't offer that type of customer service. Yeah, I didn't even know it was an obligation.
It can be, but then you have to go chasing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so we had talked about that new, GASB reporting for
Mhm.
leases. And I don't understand why, I mean, I do understand why, because you wanna make sure everyone is aware of a purchase and that it's not, hidden under just monthly payments. But the way our system is, you have to get it approved anyway, but everyone doesn't have the same rules. So it's a general accounting principle where you're recognizing the full purchase because you essentially bought it.
Okay.
But then, at the end of the year, you'll reverse the part of it that you didn't actually pay. So we are making some payments this year, and so it'll be the capital expenditure part will be reversed for that full payment, and then we'll just see the monthly payments, the lease payments and the interest.
Okay, so,
And that's my interpretation of what I read.
right, so
So,
if I'm thinking about this out loud,
mhm.
so when you purchase an asset, right, the asset has value, so you're gonna recognize the value of
Right.
it. And then you get to depreciate over a certain amount of time or amortize the costs of the payments. So, okay, so I think, so we have a asset on the book somewhere, but as far as like, we're gonna be seeing monthly payments over the course forever, our lease payment.
Right, but this time we saw both, right? We saw the full amount under the capital expenditure and then the lease payments. And it, right now, it's looking like it's a
The
duplicate.
capital expenditure is gonna get taken out, right?
Right,
Right.
then it's just gonna show the
Okay.
monthly payments.
So effectively, I don't think we are recognizing the entire expense this month. It's not like, so when we initially made it, the purchase or whatever,
Mhm.
you have to recognize it.
Yep.
It's an asset, just like if you purchase equipment.
Yep.
You got something on your books, but let's say if we had a payment plan for like 2-3 years,
Mhm.
and they say you pay us $2,000 a month, that's ultimately, that's the cash out the door, so that's what we recognize.
Yes, yep,
Okay,
That's
well,
what we
that's just good to know from a budget perspective, so that means that I don't know how long cars they amortize, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is.
right.
But, okay, so that's just good to know,
So that's right, so that's what
so
we're
like
seeing.
standard we're gonna see.
Yeah, yeah, we're only seeing the lease payments moving
Right.
forward
Okay.
and the interest, yeah.
And then one more question about the Maywood Fest. So, was it just because we just kind of bringing it back to that, because we had a value in there previously? Because I was under the impression we were kind of going a different direction with this. Like aside from like our staff support.
Mm-hmm.
It basically was something that was gonna be paying for itself, or we're just gonna, you know, completely sponsor, like, operate, or the non-staff contributor part.
And I didn't get a clear direction on that. So Ms. Banks asked if there was any room in the budget because we were so upside down at first.
Right.
If there was any room in the budget for Maywood Fest. And I was like, well, I'm putting everything that everybody is requesting, and then we'll go from there. And so I asked the dollar amount. I was like 5, 10, 15. And then I was like, because I think the last time we might have did 50. The
It
last
was
time
50
we
the last
actually,
time,
so then
right.
I said, well, what about 25? She's like, that sounds good. So it never was, you know, so that's why this is proposed, because
Okay.
I never got a hard answer
Right.
for that. So I
Well,
just did half.
I mean, I think if Ms. Banks is recommending it, it seems like it kind of falls under her
Yeah, and we know it costs.
engagement. It does cost.
Yeah.
So I'm not against that, but, so maybe it's one of those things, hopefully we don't need it,
Mhm.
and then, you know, we can reallocate it that way, but that's something that I would hopefully think we don't need, because we didn't need it this year.
Right.
So, if we don't have a good reason, if we don't need it, then if there's other areas we could utilize that for those funds. Aside from that, I don't have anything, in terms of budget, aside from how about like the other sections?
So in the other sections, so the main thing, and to the manager's point, that, I mean, not to, you know, move us faster than we need to, one of the things that we kind of need to decide is the ARPA. I was able to put in a lot of the infrastructure in the general fund and Madison and water to cover, you know, some of the things that's on that capital plan from Bill, from Hancock Engineering. But, you know, there's still some things. So like IT, that's a 400% increase, you know, so that broadband part is like a really big piece. So if you look at that budget on page 6, it went up from 144,000 to 721,950. And this is not even really inclusive of everything because they haven't got firm numbers. So, so like the service agreement portion, this is for Impact to come in and to pretty much start from scratch, apart from some of the few items that we've recently purchased, and try to integrate that into our whole IT situation. And then there's about $75,000 in here for cabling. And then we just heard yesterday that that number, you know, maybe go up. And then the hardware and software is about $8,000. And all of these aren't hard numbers yet because of the supply chain shortage and this, that, and that. So this is their best guess based on, you know, just what they've seen in the past or what they've done in the past. And we were hoping to get firmer numbers, and maybe we can still do that before we actually have to present the budget again before you vote. But this is just the numbers from Impact right now on what they think, just based on their, you know, past experience and assessments of, you know, what our needs are. And in that 355, that's like a 20 grand dollar amount per month, and that's what I was trying to get them to really explain what that is. And because they were saying, you know, there's a deficit in our spending for, you know, IT. Okay, well, those are like salesman pitch type words. I need to break it down. So he did send us a document last night, and I haven't had a chance to really look at it for me to understand. I'm assuming he's working with Marvin, and Marvin may have a understanding, but it wasn't in layman's terms, you know, for me to feel good. And I really don't have to be the one to feel good, you know, but I would just, you know, I just like to, and I think I'm just very protective of our dollars, you know, and making sure that we're not being taken advantage of. Because if you see how we live in, you know, that you know, that's just the recipe for people to take advantage of us, you know, because obviously we don't know what we're doing, right? At least that's gonna be the thought. So I just wanna, you know, read that and make sure that we can say, yes, we did get this, because when it's so broad, how do I know what we're paying for? How do I know that that went to, that is subjective? So, so that's the biggest piece that, you know, potentially we can consider using ARPA for. You know, because this is just a drop in the bucket. He said that it would be well over $1 million.
And Impact, they are, what again, this is like IT?
That company that came and made the presentation, were you here? Did you write that down? Was he? He might have been sick.
It's not really.
Yeah, do you recall, Trustee Brandon? So
Yes.
they took the pictures of the dead
Yes.
mouse, cause
Yes.
that stood out in my
The
mind.
who? The dead mouse?
It was a dead mouse.
No, I don't
The
know.
wiring was taped up with plastic.
Yeah,
I haven't seen- I
police
seen something
department.
wrong. This was a while ago. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I did see, that was a while ago.
Yeah, so
Okay, yeah, I
they,
did see that.
yeah,
And this
so,
is the, okay. And I
Yeah.
think, when you told us this is gonna be
A heavy lift.
a heavy lift, okay.
so this is
Cause
this is a
including
portion.
servers.
And Marvin got a couple of servers, so that's the stuff that they were saying we might have already started on, but then they need to look at it to make sure that it, you know, and that type of stuff, so, yeah, so this is what they were, because we just wanted some numbers, because we're doing the budget.
Right.
And, you know, so they haven't, you know, started getting this information, and he made it, you know, clear that, you know, because of the supply chain shortage, that, you know, these, I think it was 28 or 28, 23 desktops and, you know, all that stuff.
Oh,
And this
28, that
was 28, okay, yeah, 28, so, you know, this
That'd be
is,
cool.
yeah, this is the best guess of bringing us up to speed.
And would they also be doing the work, performing?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
They don't do the wiring.
Right, that's the only, that's the
They
cabling.
don't do the cabling, so they were gonna do the quote.
Gotcha. So I guess one thing that could, since it is such a big number, and we feel like this isn't our expertise, then usually you don't get another quote, you know,
Then you gotta pay for another set.
how much is this?
I talked them down, I give you 10,000.
Oh, wow, so you
This
can't.
one I talked.
Okay.
Right, because the last one we paid
It was like
was
5.
$5, and that wasn't even as
Very
detailed as
They were
this.
very
Mm.
thorough.
And what they propose though is for them, once they do it, to try to keep the cost down, is to still utilize Marvin, but then they'll be a resource to him. So when he needs help, if he need to call somebody, if he need, you know, some assistance, because they were saying that the amount of, stations that he support is more than
Yeah.
he should.
should
Like, it should be a
IT.
smaller ratio per IT person.
Mhm.
But I mean, they feel that he's skilled enough, he's just overwhelmed.
He doesn't have the capacity.
Right,
It's
it's
capacity.
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not enough resources.
Well,
And this was like I said, this was moderate, you know, just for me to try to, you know.
this is a one-year project, is this something that happens?
This is
in
over
1 year?
5 years. Wasn't this a five, did that $23,000?
23, I think it was 5.
Right, he was saying because it's over $1 million, and so it was almost like they were giving us a payment plan.
So this is the initial payment for something?
This is, right, this is, yeah, the 355 minus the 75, because I put 75 in here. So it'll be $200 and some thousand a year for like 5 years. And they're offering us like a payment plan.
So this is like a phased project?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's gotta be
Mhm.
phased.
Okay, wow.
And that's what I wanna, you know, understand. I mean,
Yeah, I think we need another, probably if we're
They
doing a
can-
5-year,
They
this is,
can come in and, they're supposed to come back and like present,
this
to
is,
the board.
yeah, this is like, to me, it's like infrastructure, it's like
It is.
infrastructure
It
improvement.
is
And this isn't
infrastructure.
like,
right.
Our police.
It's,
because we get capitalized too, like, similar to the mayor's car, it's something that you buy and like you have some stuff, the other account and stuff, like, these are big assets, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and to your point, right, they are, the 228 is definitely capital,
That's a service. I
the
think.
equipment.
And the other part is the service agreement is,
Is the,
Just like
is
this.
their actual,
Their service.
service, the man hours. And that's what that's what we've been trying to get a better understanding of what these man hours,
What is
what does that include?
yeah.
To know that I'm getting what I'm paying for.
The
mean, that's physical stuff you can see.
Right.
You know, even if it's overpriced, I mean, at least you know that you see these cables. But the other stuff, like the scope of work, is part of that. But like, you know, it's still, I think he was gonna break it down more in layman's term, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And that's where Marvin comes in at. So what's your gauge on how much of this is he grasping and following, and how much of this is like,
I can follow up with him, cause he,
that's what we gotta lean on, right?
yeah,
I
I
don't know.
just scheduled a meeting with him, I think last week they had a meeting.
Right, and but what they said for him, they would be doing it, and so they won't have to do like, you know, like if you call somebody and have to come on site, that's an extra charge.
Right.
So what they're saying is if we have a problem, instead of them having to pay us to come at any given time, and then the turnaround time is longer, with him still being here, they can walk him through, like what it seems like, they feel like he's qualified to do what they
He has
would be
the tech.
doing once everything is set up.
Right.
So this is for like a customer service or on-call, you know, service. We always have stuff to go down and, you know, troubleshooting type of
Right.
stuff. And it would cost more if they actually had to come on site to do it.
Or call an engineer out after.
But it's a whole big old document. You welcome.
Yeah.
I can follow up with Marvin.
Yeah. It's such a huge. I mean, to me, this is like, yeah, it's like fixing like a major road or something. So it's one of those things. I mean, at this point, it's just like we under budget, like what's priority and what's not.
Our public safety systems are linked to this, and I don't know if you remember the pictures, but like something's propped up on the garbage can. There's like this is infrastructure that has to be.
Right. Okay. So let's you got something, because I know we need to. So basically, it seems like we gotta get to the over under. Are we over?
No, I balanced it because we out of time, really.
Right.
You know, I
Okay.
would readjust anywhere we need to. So, so this is, right, what I'm presenting now is balanced, but if we need to move something around, then we can do that.
Because our
Now ask a question when you get time.
okay.
Mhm.
After this, I'll let you get it. So I'm trying to remember, what was that? So we ended up paying off that bond, and that
Mhm.
afforded us, what was it? I guess I'm trying to see.
2.9 wasn't it? Or 2.4.
So you'll see that in the revenue. So you'll see on the first page, what we budgeted this year was 12,781,928, and then it increased to 15,166. You see that at the bottom of page 1?
Okay, wait. So this dollar amount that was here went here. Went to
So
general
it
fund.
increased, right?
So the general fund increased to whatever, 2.7, and then of that 2.7, we just talked about how much just went to IT. So this would have been
Right, yeah,
So
if
this
you wanna
is-
look at it like that.
That's how I guess I'm thinking about it. So,
Mhm.
like, if I don't know how we've traditionally done it, it's just kind of like, here's our budget from last year. We kind of carry it forward, and then we just kind of see
I
what's.
mean, that's what you always say, but that's not what we do.
Well, I guess that's how I think about it, or
Right.
like how I'm able to see. Okay, so what from a dollar perspective, what priorities have changed, or what's shifted? So right here. So if I'm looking at last year, I can see, okay, like
Last year, you had this much allocated.
Right.
This year proposed is here.
right,
Last year, you took all of this out. This
Right.
year is here.
yep.
There was another spot that was clerk would.
There's something. I mean, I guess in my mind, I'm trying to get to 2.7. You know what I mean?
So what's budgeted is actually 2.3, because we don't recognize the full amount, because we don't always get the full amount. What was the full tax levy? I think we put
Oh,
like
well, this
80%, right?
Central services,
The phones.
telephone.
Yeah, those are.
Yeah,
But
that's-
that didn't increase technically because they were in all of the departments, and we just pulled them in one, because that's the next thing we need to focus on, because we're not making a lot of outgoing calls. We might, I don't know how much we charge for incoming calls, but we need to audit that and look at that. So we just put them all in one spot, and then they're all charged together instead of having to go to each department and pull, what the phone usage is.
Okay.
But I would say, okay, so if you wanna just look at the two, you have code enforcement.
Right, I'm seeing it now,
Let me
okay.
see. I had a.
So here's some other big, okay.
Yeah, they got, cause they need vehicles, so that was a big increase there. The contractual and professional, because we don't have the grant to use to, clean up properties like board ups and, mowing lawns and that kind of thing, so that increased.
So it's more vehicles in this one?
Yeah, I think we got a couple there for them.
You have 5 vehicles in code enforcement, and you have 3 vehicles in police. You have a down payment for a fire engine. You have a truck in fire. You have a truck in, public works. Yeah.
The 5 vehicles and code, for who?
For, the officers, the street personnel, they're the only department who have not received any vehicles, and like, the only one we did get was for animal control, when we did, the first set of financing. The other ones were are like 19 years old or whatever, those pickup trucks. And so, Director Duncan mentioned that one of the windshields is broken, but, because they haven't replaced that position, so that car is parked. And then there's a lot of, work that needs to be done on the other ones because they're so old. Even though this is budgeted, they don't even have any in stock. So you can't even put your order in until May of, this year. And then you'll go on the list to, to try to get one. But they were nicely priced, like $20,000, for a pickup truck.
And we were looking at buying all those cars at one time.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I guess that's a good thing, I mean, it's needed, right? So I guess that's the good thing that we're in a position to,
Yeah.
purchase these assets. They just,
And the dollar value of all 5 of those vehicles are less than, a lot of some of the other departments' singular vehicles, with the
Right.
exception of squads. And like I mentioned, they needed a fire engine, but he preferred to have a custom one, which wasn't a lot more than one off the floor. And that just helped us be able to split the payment up. So like we'll do 50% down payment in 23, and then it'll be paid off in 24 when it's delivered. And then he has a Ford F-150. Like I said, the police has $191,000 in with the 3 vehicles and the outfitting and stuff. And land and buildings is requesting a tractor mower. That's like $21,000. Yeah. So, and Public Works want a Bobcat and a Ford F-50. So the Bobcat is about $61,000, and the Ford F-50 is like $32,000.
And the Ford F-50 is for,
Is it an F-450?
Yeah, F-450.
the Ford F-450 is for what?
For Public Works, I'm not sure what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah, it's always good to kind of have that to go along with it so it can help paint a clearer picture. And I do have some other questions. Trustee Jones, if you want to, I don't know where we at.
we're on new business, discussing the budget.
Okay, can I?
Go ahead.
Okay, so a few questions in regards to, I know last year we had budgeted to address some of the vacant lots in the area, specifically utilizing monies out of the Madison Street TIF to address some of the vacant lots on there. And we did not do it last year. So my hope is that will be a focus this year. And there are some specific lots throughout the Madison Street TIF area, specifically on 17th and Madison Street, it being one of the major corridors in the village. I know last year that was one of the things that when David Myers was around that I advocated for. We did put it in the budget, it just never did get addressed. So it's my hope that we'll be able to go back to address those items.
And what were we addressing?
We were like, looking at like the vacant lots throughout the area.
Was that curb pilot? What was that?
That might, I think you are right. So it was just like going into like the, addressing like lots that even that we own, and dressing up those lots, like hiring
yeah.
somebody to come
I
in
did.
to like beautify those areas.
This year, I put it in for 50,000. It was the pilot program, at 50,000, so, I'm kinda getting distracted. Yeah, so it's there, the pilot program is there for 50,000.
And it's on the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's in the budget as well, so if you look at page 22.
Under Madison Avenue, it's in page 22.
Okay, on the
Budget,
budget.
on the
Okay.
actual budget.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up. This is what I'm doing.
So then Duncan just needs to know.
Okay. So was there, what else did you want to look at the line item?
Well, no, I mean, just happy to hear that is in the budget. So I'm just pulling this up, trying to.
Hey, so it's actually on the, so not the PowerPoint, you're talking about the actual budget, the budgeted, so that's, I think you're on the PowerPoint.
Yeah. And what page is that again? 7?
22.
Then, Money too, thank you for confirming that, I'm just pulling that really fast.
No problem.
Just to, transition to the next, item that I kind of have on my, list. As far as like assistance with the tree trimming, program, is that on here as well, or is that under something else? I know
What do you mean, what specifically? For the residents?
correct,
Yeah, so we moved that to code, enforcement.
okay,
Because it was, when they were one, it was under community development, but it was more or less a code function for them to go out and identify it. So it's 25,000, and that's on page 8.
okay, that's on page, okay.
That's the tree replacement program. The tree trimming is in Public Works, and we set aside 60,000 for that.
And that's for our trees. The tree
Yes.
trimming is the trees that's on the village border,
Yes.
Versus the
Right.
residential border.
And we try, the hope is not to, go over that, and, if the tree is dead, we, deal with it instead of keep trimming dead tree.
Okay, I see it now for the first item that I was referring to, and I see the facade program is under here as well. And it's only budgeted for the facade program, which the name had changed, for this particular program, right? To the business improvement program.
Yes.
And so, just to make sure that is, reflected.
It's sold on the Roosevelt tip on the roof.
I'm sorry. In regards to the business improvement program,
It's under, Roosevelt.
Page 23.
23. So that includes both the Roosevelt and Madison Street too?
And Madison is still listed as facade.
Yeah, so, yeah, that specifically, because I know, when we were enhancing this program, we were looking at all of the blight, and the status of those properties within the Madison Street TIF program to be able to provide additional assistance for, individuals who are looking at coming in and, purchasing those properties and to getting those properties back on the tax roll and enhancing those properties. So that's why I was concerned about that one as well. And I know last year I thought we had put more into the area, based on the conversation we was having of looking at doing more to invest in, the economic development piece, when it relates to the TIF funding in that particular area. Said that it produces over $4 million, making sure that we were more intentional about investing in, and making it more attractive to invest in those particular areas. So we talked about, and I know the conversation got kind of convoluted about what about the other areas, but we were only focusing in on that particular area simply because that's where the resources were, and there were a lot of light when it relates to lots and buildings in those particular areas. And I know we had expanded it to the program to include both roofing, plumbing, and electrical, because after that investment, those structures will still be there, but more enhanced for folks to be able to come in to do business in those particular locations. And this came from walking and driving through all of the areas, Madison Street TIF, Roosevelt Road TIF, Lake Street TIF, but really focusing in on the Madison Street TIF, looking at some of those structures and trying to figure out what we can do to enhance those spaces. So it is my hope too that we can make this area, do more to invest in this particular area in regards to making it more attractive for businesses to come and move into the Madison Street TIF. Because there are a lot of lighted buildings, along 17th. There's opportunity along, especially Fifth Avenue, between the areas of Quincy all the way to Maywood Street, and especially with that property, the Oddfellows building on the corner of 5th and Washington Street. So
yeah, I'm aware of all of that. We budgeted $100,000 last year, and I budgeted $100,000 this year. If there's another number that you would like to see, we can do that.
Right, are you, where do you, you want to see more number, or what do you just,
We just want to make sure it gets done.
well, that too, and doing more to invest in it as well.
you want more money?
There's
Give
no
more money.
one leading that charge right now. So, we could set the money aside, so once, I would assume either code or community development gets up to speed, then the money will already be there. So if we need to do more than $100,000,
Yeah.
then we can do that.
I would think that we need to do more than 100,000 because this is an area that has been.
That's fine, for the number. 'Cause we're-
Okay, I would say 200,000 at least.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, 200,000 at least to just focus, have a better focus, and this will be something that Ruben Feliciano
Right.
can then focus in on and put some energy behind, seeing that it's executed on.
Which means it's coming from somewhere else, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
So it wasn't done last year?
No,
So
no.
nothing was, the money was set aside?
Yes, yeah, so set aside for that, and again, to address the vacant lots, to make those lots more attractive. This is all coming from the mindset of that we have to do more to invest in a community development section for us to be able to see some real economic development.
To market.
Right, to
So
help
what
market the
about-
village of Maywood altogether.
What about the curb appeal? Are you still okay with that number of the 50?
And this is where, because, there's some areas, and I brought this up to David Myers when they were still working on finishing up the train tracks. But there are like certain areas throughout the village of Maywood that is in need of dire attention in regards to when you first come into the village. What do it say? Like when you get off the expressway, those entryway situations, is beautifying those areas, and specifically by the train station. So I think some more money in making the town look more attractive in those areas could do us some justice in regards to attracting potential developers to the community. So to those major statement areas, the train station area, doing some planning or some beautification of
Signage, wayfinding, signage.
Yeah.
all of those different things. You guys are on the same wavelength, so appreciate that. So all of those different things in regards to those signature areas throughout the village. So I would increase that a little bit more. And I don't know what the number, I would say maybe 100,000
Okay.
if possible, to see if we could, what we could do come this spring and summer to help enhance the overall image of the village.
Gotcha. So that'll be definitely in Madison. I'll have to look at Roosevelt. We don't have much going on in Roosevelt, but I'll see if there's more that I can appropriate from the current fund balance. So if we, what we haven't spent, and then if I can appropriate more, then I'll increase that, and I'll do that prior to our vote on the budget, and you'll see it.
Mm-hmm. And I know, just to add a little bit more context, and I brought this building up before, like, and I don't know the current status of it, but the Otho's building, like when you go down Fifth Avenue, you see, how these things look. We talked about getting some signage to go over some of these windows, so you're not looking inside and seeing like chaos on the inside of some of these buildings, and doing a better job with fixing these properties up so that somebody can come in and be attracted to them.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
Those areas.
In Washington Boulevard. So I heard a lot of conversation about Washington Boulevard, and so for me, I just want to make sure we're on the same page because we've been pushing this can down the road for a long.
The infrastructure.
Yeah, so finishing up from 9th and Washington to the village borders at 21st and Washington Boulevard. And so this is supposed to be the year that we move forward on that.
Yeah, we're letting in November, so that's when they get started, and Bill could give you I understand what I think letting means, but that's when they kind of get started, right? So, but it'll be finished in the next fiscal year, and that's when we have the majority of the money budgeted for. So for this year, it's just a little bit of the preliminary engineering and that.
Is this the project where the mayor talked to Congressman
Yeah.
Davis to get the 1.4?
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I guess what he's saying is, are we prepared to break ground?
Yeah, because that's what I'm looking for.
November is when is the letting.
It's a what?
Letting.
They call it
They call it a letting.
I got
November.
Does that mean break ground?
I don't know. That's when it starts. That's when it starts.
Look, I just like to hear that. I just like to hear the
No,
word.
that's when it starts. It starts in November. What all starts
I
in
don't think the
November?
construction starts.
Yeah, but it. Right.
That's what I'm. That's what I'm
Construction
looking
would
for.
be the spring. November, the letting
So what
would
he
be.
said is, it'll be complete next fiscal year. So it'll be complete, but because our fiscal year,
He told us we was getting started on it this year. So that's why
it is this year, November.
The letting, I guess.
It's-
Well,
right.
we gotta build. We gotta
no.
read
See,
the room a little bit.
no.
He'll be here.
No, we want to hear when we're going to break ground to finish off from 9th
What
to
is caterpillar
21st.
coming out there?
And that's, it's in MFT, so if you look at, that money that we're getting, it's on page 15. And so we're getting about, we get 2 payments annually, and we get our last 2 payments this year of, 529, 209 is what I put in here. So we'll be fully, I think it was in over 6 payments. So we'll have our, last 2 payments in this fiscal year, and we'll have all the money, to pay for it. So it's just part of the fund right now.
The letting is
MFT
part
fund.
of the bidding process.
We can't start the bidding process early? Because
I opens the bidding process.
okay.
Department of Transportation.
Okay. Okay, they have to open.
They have a schedule. They have a schedule that they will announce that now you can bid on certain projects. But Bill will be here tonight to talk
Okay.
about it.
And
But I
so
think
that
this
goes
is
back
the
to
one.
when we always say to have shelf-ready projects, right?
Shelf.
So when we're ready, then we already know what we're doing. So when the bid open, we're not trying to, because they have their schedule, we're not trying to find a project that we need. So we have everything ready. I think the only thing that I budgeted a little bit this year was maybe to complete their engineering scope on it. But the majority, I was trying to find his capital plan that he sent me.
Because I thought we did the preliminary work on 9th to 21st already. So I thought that we was in the stage of.
Yeah, I guess we can listen.
Yeah, but we've gone through that, and that's what he said, so, I
Yeah, well,
mean,
well,
I talked to
But I
him
think
Okay.
it was
about
the
it.
one, I think it was the one that Mayor said that
Curtis Davis.
yeah,
So did we receive a check yet?
I,
yeah, we go to some sort of email there.
so like a 1.4, but then we also just did the surface transportation program. We put it on the schedule, so that in case we don't get the federal money, then we're in the rotation. So he can explain tonight, trustee Brandon.
Perfect.
He'll be here.
Perfect. And for the pool, I know we received a grant for $350,000. Was there anything else we needed to add to that to fill in any gaps? Because I know we were having some problems with it, or the work hasn't been completed on it. So I was just trying to figure out if we need
Yep, we do, and it's budgeted.
to. Okay.
So of that money, we have that's on page 16. So where you see up at the top, appropriation of fund balance, so that's the balance of the 333. We used 13,000 for some preliminary work with the pool, actually last fiscal year or the top of this one. And so the appropriation of, what was there is the 320, and then this is the tax revenue. And then under that contractual professional services is the, budgeted to get the work done, and our portion is the 35,000 under grant expense.
That's our match, right?
Yes.
And so this is definitely work that can be began like now.
Whenever, yeah.
Since the pool is not going to be open, we should definitely be moving on this to see that this project is complete.
Is this another one that the engineer can speak on?
No, because they don't have a certification to address the pool. So on the board packet tonight is a resolution or something on here tonight to partner with the park district to look for funding and other things to address the pool. There's something on the agenda.
But see, I think, and I know it's on, I did see that. But see, my whole ordeal is the village of Maywood need to have a tighter grip on its properties and be able to move forward with the funds that have been given to us, from the government to be able to address those issues that are scheduled to be addressed. And so we can move forward from that. So I think, if partnerships are all good, but I think that it's important for us, we don't have a tighter grip on what's going on with this particular property. And so I felt like last year that we had identified a company to come out to, and I can see if Peter is aware of it, to start on this or to do this. So I'm just trying to figure out why we still.
What's his name? Jimenez.
Yeah, him and that, Philip.
Yeah, he sent reports over, so you want me to forward those to you guys?
Yeah.
They did inspections and certain things, and he did send those over to me and Director Fox, so let me grab myself a note. I'll forward those.
That's over.
I mean, all the information regarding the pool and what was needed was what was prepared and was taken to apply for.
And a grant.
So we have all of that information. It was formalized to apply for the grant. So it would be in community development or code enforcement.
You know what? That's a good point you just brought up. Because in order for them to be able to identify like all of the needs, who did they have to come out to be able to really evaluate?
Right, they had a company.
They had-
All of that is packaged. All of that is packaged. The only thing that stopped the repair largely was due to COVID.
Okay, so there we go. So we just go back to that part and be able to clearly identify exactly where we was at with them, and maybe even have them come back out to see if the pool has incurred any additional damages over that course or over the time frame. So we just have a tighter grip on the current state of the pool, so that we can move forward with the funds that we receive through a grant to be able to do what we need to do from our end and then continue to move forward.
And they had extended the deadline to use them because of
COVID.
I think 2 years.
Mm-hmm. But I think that we should definitely be moving.
I thought he said from the report, I don't remember, that the pool was not functional or something. Okay, I'll get those reports over to you guys.
appreciate it, so we can move forward on that. And last but not least, in this budget, how much are we investing, or are we going to be repaying the rainy day fund for the money that were borrowed?
452,000. So that is on page 2. No.
And this is under.
No, it's not. It's on page 14. And that's half of what
Or
is
borrowed.
left. Right, that's borrowed. Because, we've been earning some interest. It was the million is this only years that we were earning a little bit of interest. So it's a little bit less than $1 million to pay. And so actually about the 452 times.
Because you borrowed over $1 million.
So, right, it's 905, that's left to pay, 905,602. So, right, when I parted at 2.7, right, was going to pay this back completely. But based on some of the requests from the departments, that's why that got reduced to 50% instead of 100%. Because I had to try to balance it.
And I guess what my question is, like, so, based on some of these requests, I guess, and we talked about this prior to as well, as far as like, and I know we're going to be doing the POCO survey to kind of give us a foundation to kind of operate off of. So I'm just trying to figure out any of these costs that we put in this year's upcoming fiscal budget. Can any of those costs be utilized, especially if we know we can utilize it to like infrastructure and things of that nature? So some of that weight could go to the opera funding side of things.
That's 10.
Yeah,
That's 10.
we could. We didn't budget for that because we haven't done anything with ARPA yet. But if we look at, I think it's about $600,000 in the corporate fund that's infrastructure and public works. So it would be on page 11 under contractual and professional. So of that 853, 538, 536,000 of that is infrastructure. And the largest chunk of that is the Green Alley. The Green Alley infrastructure, that's about 339,000. And then another big portion is actually in the water fund, which is a 4-inch water main replacement north Maywood, and that's for 2 long blocks. And then we have in the TIF fund, we have another 6-inch main replacement that we're able to use the TIF funds with, and that is 2 long blocks too. So it's 2 water main replacements that we're using other funds versus ARPA.
Yeah.
But we do have a 5-year capital plan, and if we don't use it for these items this year, then we could potentially use it next year. Because I think we were trying to make sure that we got all of the, grants that are out there for, infrastructure. But we have infrastructure for the next 5 years, so we could use our state utilize any potential grants that come up because we have enough infrastructure.
Yeah, because when I just think about, $12 million for alleys and.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna have infrastructure from now on because as we fix things, years go by and
And then there's the mandate on the lead lines too.
Yeah.
So, it's just, and so that was one of the things that we really wanted to focus on this evening too, were any recommendations, because for that grant fund, I put in the anticipated balance of 3.2 that we're gonna receive, but there isn't any expenses, so that is the only fund and it's not currently balanced because I was waiting for us to discuss it today.
We received half already.
We already received half, we should receive the other half in this fiscal year.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. And so here's what I thought we could do from based on the information that we have now and the time frame. So if you could confirm what's the time frame that we have to use the money.
I think it's December 31st of 2024.
We have that long. You only have 2 years.
That'll be in our fiscal year 25, but it's December 20.
So you have approximately 3 years,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so what I would do, because part of I think where we are now is that we need to get more information to know where exactly to use this money, but we know we need to use it. My proposal would be, as far as expenses, I don't know how we would break that down now. I don't know if we're in a position to break it down now, but what I would do is, if we have a better gauge of how we're going to do it, is to break it up into 3 parts based on the years. Okay, and so I would just break it up into two parts. So the one part, just now going into it, would be to assess our need based on us using a third of those resources for those items. I think we need more information to know where, but that'd be my way. I mean, that'd be my approach.
What do you mean by more information?
So isn't that so part of it? Like Hope Lab is supposed to we're supposed to
Oh,
get
so
feedback.
once you get the feedback.
Yeah, feedback. Otherwise, it's like just our opinion. It's supposed to be more feedback.
And if you look on page 18, I broke out the categories in which we could use them. And so when we do begin to, so we can, be able to have it charged to a line item that reflects where we can spend it.
Right.
So that's not in your PowerPoint, it's in the budget document on page 18. And so those are the 7 areas that we can utilize it. And then even from beyond that, it kind of breaks it down, like under public health, there might be 4 categories under public health. It could be, 5 categories under the negative impact, but they kind of list that out so you make, you're sure that you're using it accurately.
Right. And this is something, so we're approving the budget that we need to do in April. Is something else? Does this need to get approved in April as well?
It's part of the budget, yeah. So, I mean, I can allocate it in different buckets, but we don't have to use it, you know what I'm saying? So, just to kind of balance the budget, we know that we have some administrative costs. We know that we have,
The administrative would be the contract with POCO, which I think is about 13,000.
Revenue replacement, I know you haven't mentioned that. That was
Yeah.
the potential employee part, right? Okay.
Negative economic, they will allow you to if you wanted to help business owners in the community.
So I think that was one. So here's one. So where we could, so I know Housing Forward came in to visit. Safe Summer Initiative. I think some of those initiatives are something that we should look into. The tourism. So I know there's some projects that are happening in that space. I'm not sure which item that would fall under.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll look at the descriptions again, I have it, and then I'll just propose some, just to balance it.
Right.
Again, we don't have to
Right.
do it, but at least, but yeah, just so we can allocate it. Because we do have to submit reports, and we haven't even budget, for it. So on our report, we don't have.
Yeah, I guess we gotta really prioritize whatever this information is we need to get this input on. Otherwise, we're putting in.
I mean, because what we had initially looked at using it for when we said yes, we needed it was for infrastructure.
Right.
That was our goal, and then somewhere along the way that changed.
Right.
So that was
The
the
infrastructure deal made it seem like maybe we shouldn't.
because we were going there was a new one.
So it's like, why use those resources? Yeah. And I still think we're in a position where we don't want to, let's say if there's money coming, from another source, you want to be able to maximize the value and get into other areas.
Right.
But yeah, I would take your recommendation,
Okay.
but this is based on, what was the revenue amount, or
So
based on what we have?
This is just the upcoming amount. I didn't even appropriate what we have.
So in order to balance it, we need to put that,
the current amount. So the reason that we were like trying to do the amendment initially is because when we did our budget in 22, we didn't budget the 1.5. So we really, we could spend it, but you really couldn't spend it, right? We had a budget. So what I'm attempting to do here is know we're getting the other half to recognize, so that we don't have to go through that process of trying to amend it to recognize that money when it comes in. So when it comes in, we've already included in our budget that begins May 1st. And then we could allocate, you know, some areas that we think we're gonna wanna spend it in. Just to account for it, to have a budget to be able to submit for the board.
So we're going to get this filled in by our next meeting.
Yes.
So you can leave
Yes.
that, and then I think from there, we'll just have to try to get some feedback. Even though there's no
Yeah,
feedback, try to get some feedback.
and, you know, it's a big enough chunk, we put big enough chunks in those areas that, you know, we'll be okay. We still have the other half that we haven't done anything with, so if we need to go up, you know, the money is still there.
Right. I guess my last comment, and I'll turn it over to Trustee Grant. So hopefully we can end at about 6:50, just give people a little time to go to the restroom. Remember, they got some 9 minutes. So, yeah, my recap would just, or my recommendation would be kind of what you just said. Let's get that information to fill in these gaps. It would be good for us to, if we can, get a little specific on some of them. Just because there are entities that have already come out and reached out to support, very important ones.
Or would they be like in the minutes, or how would I be about?
Yeah, those would be in the minutes, yeah. So I think there's only been about 2 or 3. So the one that comes to my mind are Housing Forward for sure. And on behalf of the township, the folks with CSPL, we're vouching for a safe summer. So those are ones that they did come in. I know there's tourism opportunities with Hampton House, maybe even the pool too. I think that could also be one if there is a budget gap in there. The Dr. the basketball court, and also this comment about, or these funds for what we might owe to the park district in terms of the.
Yeah, so I'm not clear on that, I probably, but,
That's fine, actually, that might be one too. So we were, thus, just long story short, we came up with an agreement where a part of the transfer of those 6 parks was that they were gonna come back with an assessment on how much the parks were worth, and the village were gonna support up to $200,000 that, but it was $100,000 a year. So I think they did their requirement, they did their requirement as far as getting that assessment. So our job then is how to work, basically we sort of like receipts or whatever.
yeah, did we reverse them?
Yeah, so I think that also could probably be one of those 2 if it's not in the budget, but, I'll stop there, I'll let you say something.
Yeah, and I just want to just wrap up really fast. I think, you know, we were on the same wavelength, encourage, I had a conversation with Manager Armstrong about this as well, making sure we invest in human infrastructure, right? That means assisting our residents, coming up with, you know, some initiatives. Maybe they have like, you know, porch or roofs that need to be repaired, or doing some things like that as well, because that's going to help make those properties and their properties more sustainable. It's going to help improve the image of the village as well. I think we have done similar programs in the past, but just based on the conference that we went to Washington, D.C., that was one of the overall topics of making sure we maximize the moment with these funds, and making sure that we also invest in our residents, and so looking at what we can do to help them enhance their properties, maybe through a grant initiative facilitated by the village to help, you know, with what assistance they may need, whether it may be porch repair, roof repair, or anything that can help enhance the properties, which will add to overall enhancement of the village.
Okay.
I think that's a good area as well, so I appreciate the manager for
What he's talking about, that's why I'm here. I want to find out.
the grant to
Okay.
take.
Director Solis and I have also, because there's a lot of focus on business and not so much on,
Residential.
even with the CDBG money, they're using all that for infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so we've already kind of laid the seed, planted the seed that we don't want to take all the future CDBG allowance for infrastructure, but we would like to have some out of that. So if we have a lot of seniors, so if somebody needs a ramp installed, you know, the bathroom modified, you know, those types of things, that we can create some type of program for that.
I totally agree with that concept. Totally agree. Totally on board. But yeah, that was my final comment. But just happy to see, you know, good job, great presentation that was put together by staff. And yeah, we just need to just execute on those things going forward. Thank you so much.
Yes, oh, yeah, and then the last thing, Baker Tilly, is there an update on that? So, is there any update on the, whatever, the most recent report?
No, nothing to, we touched base and we're still working on it.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
okay, I know we're doing, we're making some, which is a good thing, making some, capital purchases. So this is good, as we're doing that, we're kind of monitoring where we are with all these assets, the one that we're replacing. That's on our books.
That is something that I need to do. Yeah, we're probably evaluation.
Right.
That's part of, you know, what I think you understand it, like, it just going on.
Right.
Hopefully I can get that. Just try to at least reach out to the last company, just try to get it scheduled. Because the auditor.
I'll show you a template of what the museum has a really good kind of capital improvement schedule. And so it like just kind of maps out, you know, 5, 10 years, like every 3 years they're planning on purchasing vehicles and how they dispose of them and their thought process behind it, you know, leasing versus owning. You know, just it just kind of maps out, but then also you kind of know already next year what you're gonna when you're gonna be purchasing assets. It's not like
Yeah,
it doesn't
and
it's
we
not
did
ad hoc.
do that this year because there was so much that was being requested, and it wasn't, we couldn't do it this year, so I just already started. We just don't usually get that, you know, from the department.
I understand.
So, but because we told them give us everything,
Right.
you know, they gave us everything. So then I just started splitting it up, you know, over years, so we could, you know, actually have a capital plan.
Nope, just one tidbit on that. And one of the other things too, I know when we were buying the new fire, engine fire truck, we talked about, when we know that we're buying items of that magnitude, that's gonna cost like close to like $1 million, and we know that that truck is gonna have like a lifespan on it, making sure that we start to, budget as well, put some type of reserve aside. So we
And that's exactly what we did this year.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
split it up, of this year being down payment, and then the next one is ready, it'll be paid. So
Yeah.
that's because he needs another branch.
Mhm.
That also helps with routine maintenance,
Yeah.
scheduling that.
Yeah.
Because then you know, when you got the oil change, you gotta get the tires rotated, you know, you got, so it helps us.
Stay on track.
Because when you purchase all these equipment too, then you know the next year you should expect for your extended your maintenance expense to go up too.
And that's another thing that we're looking at when we're sitting down with the department, is like your maintenance, your vehicle maintenance can't continue to be the same if you purchase new vehicles.
Right, that
But
means-
what's happening is it's not like the routine, that we were experiencing before. It's, major repairs, like a dent, you know what I'm saying, something broken.
But that's the point. I think that's indicative of why that happens though, is because we probably, if we're not budgeting for those routine repairs, then we're effectively setting ourselves up for we need to answer that. But with that being said, it's 6:49, so no more businesses to be, or business to be discussed. I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm gonna second that. It is 6:49, and I'm gonna ask for a roll call. Trustee Brandon,
Aye.
Trustee Jones, aye, and Director Satchel.
Aye.
All right, great. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you for the report, Mike.
Thank you.
Oh, come on, institutional wisdom. What we in?